Hi, I'm Aaron F. Ross. Welcome to this free video series on Maya Basics Revolve. In this series, you'll learn how to create a NURBS curve and spin it around an axis to create a surface of revolution. And the example will be a wine glass. And I think this is a good first tutorial because it's a simple model and it will give us some time to explore some of the important prerequisites in setting up a Maya scene. I've been teaching for 15 years at every level, and I've seen a lot of the same issues occur over and over again with students. And I want to use this opportunity to help you avoid those issues. Maya is the Hindu goddess of illusion, and it's an apt metaphor because Maya, the software, is an incredibly complex but powerful tool that will let you visualize almost anything that you can imagine. The video tutorials I've created for Digital Arts Guild will help you get started on the path to learning Maya. At a certain point, however, you're going to want to go deeper. And when that time comes, I recommend that you check out lynda.com, which is an incredible resource for learning not just Maya, not just 3D, but all computer software. And on lynda.com, I've created some more advanced tutorials that'll help you delve into the more complex and more powerful aspects of Maya. But for now, let's get started with the Maya Basics Revolve. Okay, let's take a look at the main Maya interface. When you first start up the program, you will see these extra windows coming up. We don't really need these. This is what's new in the program. Well, what's new is only useful to you if you know what's old. So if you're new to Maya, then seeing what new features are in this version is not really important to you. So I would say highlight what's new off, and also turn off the option to show this dialog when Maya starts. Then you've got another window here, the 1-minute startup movies. Well, you won't need those because you've got the Digital Arts Guild movies, which are so much better. So you can turn that off as well. All right, now let's take a look at this interface. Try not to be intimidated by it. There's about 4,000 icons on the screen all at once here. We're not going to use all these. And I recommend actually that we just turn most of this stuff off. The first thing I would do actually is change this background color here because blue or any color really is bad as a background for an artist. We want to have just a neutral gray background so that doesn't affect our vision, so we don't get, sort of influenced by that. You can change the background color of the main Maya viewport here with the special super secret hotkey, which is Alt-B. Okay, you can press that a few times and cycle through different colors. All right, and on the Mac, that's Option B. Okay, so that's the first thing. Then we've got all of these millions of icons here, which we really honestly don't need. And also stuff like, we're not going to be doing animation in this lesson, so we can turn off all this timeline and time slider stuff and just clarify the interface and kind of reduce the amount of distraction. And we can do that from the Preferences window. And that's found under Window, Settings, Preferences, Preferences. And within this window are about, 500 million settings that you can adjust for Maya. And almost all of these will affect all of your subsequent Maya sessions. So if you make something, changed in here and press save, Maya will store that in your user preferences and remember that forever so that the next time you open Maya, you'll get those same settings, with a couple of exceptions that we will look at later. What I want to do right now is show you UI elements. Click on that and you will see visible UI elements. And these are all the ones that we can enable or disable. First of all, the shelf. That's this area here. And these are commonly used commands. But the shelf is almost completely redundant. And there's almost nothing on the shelf that we can't find either in the main menus or somewhere else in the Maya interface. So for the sake of clarity, I'm going to turn that off. We also have the time slider and the range slider for animation. And since we're only modeling in this lesson, I'm going to turn those off too. We also have the command line. That's down here. You want to keep that on because that's where you will see any error messages that come up. If you want to type in a command, you could type it in here. We're not going to be doing that in this lesson, but I always make sure that the command line is visible so that the error line is also visible. Okay, so we don't want to turn that off. Keep that one on. And then the help line, this will display status messages. It'll tell you what tool you currently have selected and sometimes tell you what you're going to do next. Give you some hints. Okay, so I want to keep that one on as well. The toolbox is this area over here. Once you become an expert, you might be able to do without the toolbox, but I actually keep it on all the time. Okay, so those are the main user interface elements that we can turn on and off. We can close the preferences window, but don't forget to save first. All right, and if we need to get those things back, of course, we can go back into the preferences, or we can go up into this display menu and go under UI elements, and all those same things are listed there. And additionally, we can choose show all, and that'll bring everything back to factory defaults. Since we're talking about preferences, we should take a look at where those preferences are actually stored on your computer, because that's kind of important. Maybe you want to move to a different computer and take your preferences with you. And you can do that even across platforms. So you can move your preferences from the Mac to Windows to Linux, and it all works just perfectly. Or sometimes you may need to delete the preferences and clear them out. In fact, there are rare cases in which Maya will not launch because the preferences have become corrupt. And the only thing you can do is actually delete the folder. Let's take a look at that. I'm going to minimize Maya. On Windows, it's easy to find the preferences. You just go to My Documents, and then Maya, and the version number, 2015, and you will see Prefs, and that's your preferences folder. And you can keep drilling down in there if you want to look at these. It's full of all these text files that have a .mel extension, and that stands for Maya Embedded Language. So those are all MEL files. And you can actually hack those if you want to. And there's all kinds of stuff in here. But essentially, that's your preferences. And if you want to move to a different computer, you can copy this folder over. If you're on the Mac, then it's a lot harder actually to find your preferences because they're stored in the library, but the library is hidden by default. And what you need to do is go into a Finder window and up in the main menu choose Go, but you need to hold down the Option key while you do it, and that'll make the library visible. And then click on Library, and then you can drill down into Preferences, Autodesk, Maya, etc., 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 and find your preferences for the currently logged on user. All right, so that's how you get at those preferences. Let's go back to Maya now. And I want to show you one other thing, which is that there are some in-view messages that pop up that are kind of annoying. I mean, they kind of get in your way when you're trying to work. So for example, I can create an object and go to the Create menu and choose Polygon Primitives, Sphere, and it says drag on the grid. Okay, so I drag on the grid. And I can change the display of the main viewport window here using a lot of different methods. I can use this panel toolbar up here, so I can make it wireframe, or I can make it shaded, or I can use keyboard shortcuts, like the 4 key on the keyboard. So when I press 4, I get this pop-up message to say that wireframe is on. If you want to go back to shaded, press 5. Well, you're going to memorize this stuff so quickly, and those pop-up messages are going to be so annoying that you really want to turn them off pretty much right away. Let's do that. We'll go back into the Preferences, Window, Settings, Preferences, Preferences, and go to Help, and you'll see In-View Messages. I want to disable that. And then we've got Tool Clips down here. The tool clips are just the standard tool tips that you see on any program, but in Autodesk products now they have these extended tool tips that actually have way too much information. They have movies embedded in them, and it's super distracting. So I would say turn this option on that says Display Tool Name and Shortcut Only. And that way you won't have these movies start playing in your viewport when you're trying to work. All right, so we can click Save. And that all gets stored in our preferences. Cool, so I don't need that sphere. I'm just going to delete that. Select it with the Select tool up here, and it'll highlight in bright green when it's selected, and then just press the Delete key on the keyboard. Okay, so we've got all our preferences set up for Maya. There's only one other thing I want to do just to minimize the clutter in the viewport, which is to hide this panel toolbar here, because really all the commands that we want to use up here are more easily done through the menus or the hotkeys. And to hide that panel toolbar, I'm going to choose Control-Shift-M. Turn that off. And then we've also got this area up here, which is called the status line. And we can just collapse some of these elements here just to, declutter the interface a little bit. I'm not going to be using these render tools and so on, so we can just sort of make it a little bit easier to work. by not having so many icons on the screen.